I developed this presentation to help people learn how to blog in a proper and professional way, so that what you write is not only proper grammar, it's in good presentation, but it also will help you write in a way that what you have to say will be remembered and will up your professionalism and your credibility. And we're going to start by learning a little bit about how to blog and write with a little bit of writing and editing background. So if you want to learn how to edit to make sure that everything is clear and concise, try writing a LinkedIn article, because you're limited to 1,300 characters. And trust me, I did one last night. It's really hard, but it helps you focus on how to get just the right, what you really, really need to say, and not all the extra stuff. And people are really busy, so you want to make sure and write efficiently. Less is actually more effective than writing a whole lot. When you log on and you go to read an article and there's a ton, you just see how long it is, that turns people off. So if you can make it shorter, it'll be more effective. And make sure that you write for people who may be watching who have English as a second language. So some of the paraphrases and the coined phrases that we use, I used an example in Britain. They say, you have the wrong end of the stick. Well, if I were to write that, no one would understand what I'm talking about. So try and write in a way that's universal. And the best is to just be honest and genuine in the way that you write. That will come through, and people will really stick with your writing and probably come back for more. And write for one reader. And I'll use a friend of mine, Karen, as an example. She's a fashion, she dresses people and helps with the whole look for people. And she could have women who are working from home, who only go out a little bit. She could have corporate environment. She could have women who maybe have a yoga business, so they want to be casual but look nice. So each time she writes, she can write for just, pretend you're writing for one person, and that's who you want to capture. So find out who your ideal clients are and write that way. And this is from a Wall Street Journal. He's a top senior reporter and has been published all over the world with other works. And he says, stick to what the reader needs to know, not what you need to tell. So it's not about you writing everything that's in your heart or everything that you think is important. You have to find out what your readers are interested in, and that's what you should write about, and that's what'll keep them coming back. And when you write, talk about what you can do for the reader. The reader that you're talking about is you, the reader. Instead of always writing about, I can do this, we can do this, our corporate environment, our this, our that, we this. That's all about you and not the reader. So focus on the reader. And as we mentioned before, if you keep it succinct, it'll really grab attention much more quickly. And what I mean by providing less fiction in your writing, well, that's what this presentation is about, really. There are things that you put in sentences, phrases, and words and ways of writing that actually stop a reader. It causes the reading to not be as smoothly and to flow through. And what you want them to do is kind of breeze through it. They're reading it in a way that they don't even realize that the excess and the friction has been taken out, and it'll come out as really clear, beautiful writing. Now, Karen let me use this. She wrote for, she works for Ruby Ribbon, and she's actually a good writer. But some of her sentences just had a little too much what I call friction, or what might stop a reader. She was talking about women who have so many aspects to them, intellectual, emotional, mental, and physical. But the one aspect that is that's not tangible, your physical appearance, people tend to dwell on that, what you look like, your hair, your clothes. So instead of saying all of the aspects are not tangible except for one, so actually the subject of that sentence is the one that is tangible. So this took 20 words, and we narrowed it down to, since only the physical aspect is tangible, we tend to focus on it. which is really what she was trying to say, and it only took 13 words. So that'll help your reader move through it. So just look for ways that if you can simplify your sentences a little bit. And creative writing, when you remember a story that you read or a novel, it always has a beginning, a meaning, and a beginning, a middle, and an end. And sometimes even stories begin with the end and go back, which is fine. But creative is different than business writing. As you can see by this triangle here, it comes from in the press when the most important had to be first, because an editor would just lop off the end of it if he ran out of column space. So you want to make your writing scannable. So put the most important, then kind of a little bit something that they could skip, you know, intermittently put what is important in there so they can scan. Put the least important at the end, but the very end should always be important in there, which is your call to action, what you want them to do, how to contact them, if you want to answer a question, if you want them to email you, if you're giving away a freebie and you're trying to develop an email list. That's what you want to have at the end. So business writing is the opposite, really, of creative writing, and this will help you when you write for your blog also. And we have a lot of duplicative phrases in English, and people just say them and you repeat them, and that's fine. But what we talk about and how we converse is different than how people read. So saying, let's say, for instance, they arrived one after another in succession, and here come the cows in succession. One after another is the same as saying in succession. Another one that I see all the time is worldwide global, and that's actually the same. Those two words mean the same thing, so just use one of them. Future plans. Plans are always in the future. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a plan. It'd be something that already happened. And very unique. And I'll talk about the word very a little bit. But one word that you can't modify is unique, because it means there is no other like it, there's only one. So you can't actually modify that with putting something very. So if you want to say that instead of very beautiful, let's say, try and take out the word very or really in front of words and just think of a better word to describe that. It not only eliminates one word, but it's much more impactful in your writing. And sentences often have what we call false subjects. And the words there and it are two of them, and I'll show you how that works. If you say, there are many dogs who love people, food, and try to steal it, that's fine. That's a perfectly grammatical sentence. But there are is really not the subject. Dogs who love people food is what we're talking about. See how you just eliminate the words there are? Many dogs love people food and try and steal it. Right away, it's less words and a little more impactful. Simpler is easier. And it is difficult to convert, oh, it's covering up, cups to grams, I think. It is another one that really isn't the subject of the sentence. To convert recipes from grams to cups. Converting recipes is what you're talking about. And also, who says it's difficult? So you could say people find it difficult to convert recipes from grams to cup. So look for it in there as ways to eliminate and make your writing a little simpler and easier. We also have a lot of long phrases that people use to make you sound more intelligent or more interesting. But when you're reading blogs and you're trying to get to a very busy audience who wants to read, simplify those phrases a little bit if you can, due to the fact that is the same as because. In order is another one like there are. I bet 99% of the time, if you take that out, whatever follows that is what's important. So instead of saying in order to determine, you can just say to determine, and then whatever happens after that. At the present time is just, you can say currently. And a large number of, even though many is a simple word, keep in mind we're trying to get the reader to grasp the importance of what you're trying to say and take out excess phrases and words that can put that little bit of friction in the sentence. But one thing that's really important is make sure your subject and your verb align. So a singular subject has to have a singular verb, plural subject, plural verb. Now this may go back to 8th grade grammar, but it's true your entire life, and no matter how sophisticated your writing is. So if you were to say, my client loves their new couch, well, the fact that this word there is telling us more than 2 people, at least more than 1. So my client is singular and loves is singular, but there is plural. So it would either be my clients love or my client loves. And an S on a verb is always singular. In another sentence, let's say you say a troupe of actors have arrived in town. That looks perfectly normal and fine. But this little phrase of actors, it's what's making people think it's plural. Troupe is actually the subject. So it would be, if you take out of actors, a troupe has arrived in town. Simple writing, clear, concise, proper grammar, subject, verb. Makes things a lot easier. Other words that end in ION, HEION, TOMENT, ENT, you see them a lot, and there are many nouns that should end in that. The problem is when people make them into a verb, and you're actually camouflaging the real root word, the verb. And a verb is always stronger when you're writing than a noun. And here are a couple examples of how people do that. It's a little upside down. We made the decision to. Again, you would say that's fine. But if you say we decided, lot stronger. For the optimization of, just to optimize, and then whatever follows that is really what's more important. You can see how this becomes a little clearer and stronger just on simple things you can do to change your writing. In the development of, develop is actually the verb there. And combination, if we use the combination of this and this, you can just say we combined, or we're going to combine such and such. And you can search your document for those endings and just go through each instance and see if there's a way that you can make that a little clearer. And I'm just going to say, don't trust your spelling and grammar checker. As you can see with these words, they're all spelled properly, but you could have the wrong one and it will completely change your sentence. So I use that as a quick first, just to go through it and make sure that you are using the proper form of that, including words like it's and who and whom. And proofreading is the final step of what you're doing. And there are many items and elements to proofread, except if you've spelled things properly. And the grammar check, as I said, doesn't always work either, like to spell. So you want to look at grammar, fact checking, anything that you write, make sure, even if it just says Tuesday the 11th, make sure that it's not Monday the 11th or Tuesday the 10th or something like that. Your format is important. You want some white space around your format so that it's easy and pleasing to the eyes. Your punctuation you need to look at. Possessive forms of your words, make sure those are correct. Your headings, if you have them in a certain point size and bold or italic, click on each one of those and make sure they're completely identical. And that's consistency in everything, in your writing, in your format, in your grammar. And that's what style. So the whole thing just comes down to a style that you have. And if you sort of keep the same style all the time in your blogs, people will begin to recognize that. So just develop a style that you like and stick with it. And there are real styles, as we say. They're called the AP style, the Chicago style, or even corporations have style. And one of the example, well, this is always true of any style. Always put the period inside the quotes no matter what. Doesn't matter if you're quoting somebody or if you're using a word at the end of a sentence, the period goes inside. Now, this is a style. AP style and Chicago are different, whether you put a space before and after the dash or whether you don't, and the same with the ellipsis. So once you do one, just stick with it. The Wall Street Journal, the LA Times, Los Angeles Times, check all publications, make sure whether the is really part of the title or how else they refer to it. The Los Angeles Times could be the first time you say it, and the second time, just call it the LA Times. So it's very important to check publications. And ages are always in figures. And again, with the style, like the Cleveland Clinic always puts MD together without any periods. They don't use a period after doctor, and they have a lot of rules about their logo and their size and their placement and everything. So this is what style is all about. And this is just another common error that people do. It's never an apostrophe S when you're talking about a period of time. And I gave 4 examples there of how it is proper to put it, but don't put that. Apostrophe is for possessive. These are just plural. So it's a plural, not a possessive. Now, when you're blogging, why are you blogging? Are you talking about advertising, branding, what you do? Are you trying to entertain people, educate them? You can even blog to gain knowledge, because as you blog and you're reading and doing research about what you people want to read about, you are gaining knowledge in industry, and you might learn something more about your industry through other people's blogs or research. And you want to show authority, like why should they come to you? Because you are best at what you do. You might be blogging to increase your income, but really the purpose of a blog is to get people to respond, to ask a question at the end. There's always that box that you can contact, but you could ask a question to try and get some conversation going. You want to connect with others. You may be developing an email list through that. Many reasons to blog. But mostly you want to connect with people so that they connect back with you. But you have to have a strategy. And when you write and blog, there's kind of an 80-20 industry rule. And 80% of it should be about your industry, information that everybody might find important. So you could include links to other articles or quote other people, things like that. And about 20% of it, call attention to yourself, talk about what you do, maybe what you have to offer. But otherwise, it looks like you're just selling all the time, and that's a turnoff to people. So keep the 80-20 rule. And you can do research. Google Analytics and other search engines have, if you put in keywords in your industry, like Karen could put in, you know, with the terms, whatever it is in the fashion industry that she's trying to write about, and then you'll see what people really like to read about. So if you do your research, you'll have much better subjects to talk about. And share your blog where your audience spends time, because you could be putting it in many different places, and if they're not reading it, it's not effective. So find out, you know, by doing your research and just looking at other people's articles, where they post them, what is the most impactful place that you can put your blog that people will see it. Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook are just a few. Pinterest, there are many. And if you make a marketing calendar, this makes it a whole lot easier on yourself. You can get content ideas from Quora, Reddit, and YouTube. Put in your couple keywords that you like, and Quora will show you what people are reading about, how many people read about that subject. It'll really help you hone in and focus on some areas that your audience would like. Put a good mix of links, quotes, copy for your blog, maybe pictures. Put a good mix so that it's interesting. And Canva, these are some of the basic. Gather your pictures and your web links and have everything ready so that when you go to blog, you have some stuff to pull from. And I made that little doggy in a place called Canva, which is free. You can add a picture and text. You can change the text and the text size and the color and the font and all kinds of things and make it fun. Because a blog that has a picture that'll grab attention will much more likely be read than a blog that doesn't. So Unsplash, Pixabay, Pexels, and Canva are all free, and they're great places to get pictures for your web. And just engage your audience. You can put on Facebook, I haven't done these, I should try it. Facebook surveys, you can ask questions. You can put up a picture and say, what do you think? I'm thinking about this. What's your answer? What would you do? Anything that can engage your audience back and forth, like this meme, is really what'll catch attention. So you want to know, why do you need a copy editor, perhaps? Many reasons. First of all people need an editor. The best writers in the world have editors. And the main reason is because you can't look at your writing with a fresh perspective. That's actually why I call my company Fresh Eyes for a fresh perspective. It's almost impossible to look at something that you've looked at and read and edited many times freshly like the reader does. So to get somebody to understand it like the reader would for the first time, and that's what a copy editor does. It instantly, when you fix all these things like we were talking about, your credibility goes up, your professionalism and your credibility. Because people who know and recognize good writing, proper grammar, and a little more intelligent style of writing than just a blah, 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 whatever you want to talk about, if they recognize that, then your professionalism goes up a notch right there. It also saves you time, so you can focus on what you like to do. If blogging isn't your thing, or you just want to throw some ideas down and give it to a copy editor, he or she, like I would always keep the voice and the personality of the person who's writing. But if that's not your thing, do what you are best at. You know, like they always say, if you can't do it all, hire what you don't know how to do best. And that's the same idea with a copy editor. And the reader is most important. The reader is really who counts. That's why, you know, the Wall Street Journal, Shani said, it's not about what you want to tell. It's about what the reader needs to hear. So make it so that your reader is your focus. And they will remember you and appreciate that and keep coming back for reading more, or perhaps with your link to your website, whatever your call to action is, then they'll go to your website, then they'll email you perhaps or call. And another reason you want to make your blog really spectacular is the conversion rate. If people kind of read something that's boring and they're not that interested, it doesn't catch them, guess what? They click off immediately, and that's not what you want to happen. The longer, that's called a bounce rate. So the longer somebody stays on your site, the better it is for you. And Google Analytics and your webmaster and all that behind the scenes stuff of a website or a blog are actually counted. So they look at bounce rate. And it keeps your reader on your site longer, and that's what you want. You want them to stay, like it, come back, read more, follow you, put it in their favorites or something like that. So those are my tips for having a great blog and using a copy editor. Best of luck with your success with that.